What was the most scary mistake you've ever made? I forgot I already had a tampon in and put a second one in. Absolutely horrific experience. I heard a story one time about a girl who didn't realize she already had one up there and didn't find it for like a couple months. That happens all the time. Not months, but weeks. I work in an OBGYN office. They're called retained tampons. They can stink up the office. They go in a biohazard bag, double bag it, throw it in the bin and put a note to not open. Coffee grounds. Put some in the room. In the closet with the biohazard bins. Coffee grounds. Women come in thinking they have a yeast or bacterial infection and the doctor finds an old tampon. Retained tampons. Similar to yours. Tried to take my contact out. Wasn't wearing one. Well, that's enough Reddit for me. Good night. When I was 15, an older guy, early 20s, flirted with me at the bus stop. He was cute and seemed nice. So naively, I let him have my number. He ended up raping me. The only person I've ever told is my husband. Years after the fact. On a lighter note, over plucking my eyebrows in middle school. It took years for them to fill back into where they were before and I was stuck with microbrows for most of my adolescence. That is so f***ing awful. I'm sorry you went through that, and glad to know you're still here. My son is 12 now. When he was around 2 years old, I took him outside to play on the back porch. He was riding a wooden cow on wheels. There were steps, but the back deck was pretty big, and I figured as long as I was watching him, it would be fine. We had these neighbors. Really assholes. Just loud and generally gross people. I heard the guy start yelling no big deal. He yelled at the time. But then I heard the woman cry out. I turned my head towards their window. It only took a split second. My baby rode his toy off of the steps, and cracked his head on the edge of a slate sidewalk. When I think about how his cries sounded and the slow way he raised his head, I still want to throw up from guilt. Blood gushing. I screamed for my mom, and held him while she drove us to the hospital. He ended up needing stitches. I know I'm a good mom. I know I didn't intentionally neglect him and allow him to get hurt. But every time I see the scar on my kid's forehead, I feel like a terrible parent. If it makes you feel any better, might not. I split my skull completely open twice and punched a hole straight through it when I was a kid. My parents aren't bad parents because of it. Boys hurt themselves a lot and we don't really stop until we're like 40-50s lol. My granddad actually fell off his roof in his 60s. When I asked what he was doing up there, he looked me dead in the eye and said I wanted a cool leaf that blew up there. Your grandpa sounds pretty metal. Getting married when I had an instinct it was wrong. That's tough. Me too. Now I'm married to a cheater. It sucks. I love him so much but my mental health is suffering. My boyfriend passed out, unprompted, and I have zero medical training or common sense. I had the option of guiding him onto his back or his belly, knowing I would not be able to turn him over by myself once he was on the floor. I chose his belly. Didn't realize he had cardiac arrest and would need to be on his back to receive CPR. First responders arrived in time and he's essentially unscathed, but boy do I think about that a lot. I mistook the gas pedal for the brake. Drove into my garage. It was horrible. I wouldn't say mistake, because I'm very happy with it, but getting pregnant right as the pandemic started, I had faith that my country would do something the right way for once, and we wouldn't have to worry about it for too long. Well, I'm still waiting for my country to do something right lol. My husband and I are doing everything in our power to make our pregnancy okay, and make sure our children will be safe. I wonder which country you are in. Betting it's a good old USA. Assumed a UPS truck saw me in a crosswalk with warning lights in broad daylight and would stop. I barely avoided getting hit at 45 miles per hour. Having right-of way doesn't mean anything if you're dead. Rollerblading down a steep hill. As a child, unsupervised and without proper knowledge of how to apply brakes, the bottom of hill quickly ended in a 90-degree hard right. I stopped in time to not jump the curb. Promptly toppled backwards. I was tall even then, and slammed the back of my head into the pavement. I was wearing a helmet and it saved my life. Trying to drive into work during a snowstorm. My car got stuck. I was sobbing and panic-stricken when some kind stranger stopped to help me get out. Also the time my stomach was bothering me, but I decided to go for a run anyway. By some miracle, I made it back home without myself. Decided to go jog. Parked my vehicle at a local park, and went from there. I was maybe 3 miles away from the park when a poop pain hit. I told myself it was okay. I was an adult and I was not going to my pants on the side of the road. I would to just walk back to the park because there were public bathrooms. Or so I thought. They were closed at the time. I panicked, called my dad, who lived closer to the park than I did, screaming, asking him to have his door unlocked and to be out of the bathroom, and sped to the house. Thankfully he was home because I wouldn't have made it to my house and I didn't want to go to a gas station with my cheeks clenched and red-faced. A friend of mine is a distance runner and has had to leave socks in the woods multiple times due to what she calls the oopsie poopsie. Brilliant. Reading that made me snort so hard my boyfriend woke up and told me to shut up. Blacking out at a club. For a period of time, I practically lived at this particular club. I was there every night that it was open. I never got crazy drunk. I just enjoyed dancing. This particular night I'm fairly certain something got slipped in my drink. I took drinks from people that night, rather than getting them straight from the bar myself. I am so lucky that my friends were there and kept me close and got me home safely. It's terrifying to see pictures of yourself and not remember any of it. I don't know how I survived my party years. One time my friends and I, all girls in our early 20s, couldn't find a cab to take us home from the bar, so we accepted a ride from some random lady. She said she was waiting for her boyfriend, so had some time, and she didn't even want money. Dropped us off safely at our apartment and left. How were we not murdered or trafficked? I pulled the clutch going legal speed. High for me. Left turn in an intersection. I should have revved the engine instead. Motorcycle 101. I was a beginner back then. I realized what I did was a mistake and there was nothing I could do as the motorcycle leaned a bit for me to make the curve. Nothing happened, thankfully, but it could have. I just got goosebumps remembering it. It all took 3 seconds. It felt like time warped. Letting the friend of a friend fix the master brake cylinder in my car. Brakes stopped working an hour later. I only go to mechanics now. I wrote an entire page of incredibly vulgar dirty talk, including each and everything I wanted to do to my boyfriend and him to do to me when I got home, and accidentally faxed it to my boss instead of my boyfriend. I sent it at about 1 AM. I was a bar manager and so was he, just at different locations. I didn't sleep that night, knowing my boss would get to his office at 7 AM and see it in his fax machine. The funny thing is, he never mentioned it to me and I worked there for 6 years. The dread I felt is indescribable. Faxing a porno letter is BDE. You should feel proud. Lost count doing CPR. Got myself into $25,000 worth of credit card debt. Not sure if this would be me or my parents, but when I was young we were camping and one of them had the great idea of putting whatever leftover lighter fluid they had into an empty water bottle. Well, I picked it up and was just about to take a swig when I felt a strong waft of something that didn't smell like water hit my nose. Thankfully, I hadn't taken a sip yet, but it's a moment I still think about now and always sniff to make sure that any opened water bottles I'm drinking from are water. Drove home not realizing I had been roofied. Passed out and flipped my car. I've had so many near-death or could have been bad scenarios on the road. Rarely happens but they still do and each one is always scarier than the last. The last mistake was I turned right at a red light in the evening. I checked. Streets looked empty. Soon as I turned, a car came speeding through trying to make their light, almost crashing into me. Both of our faults, if you ask me, but mostly mine. Not double checking that the safety was on. First time hunting with my dad as a kid. Had to take my rifle off my back to get down a steep drop. Slipped and fell and when my rifle hit the ground I must have hit the trigger and the bullet grazed the back of my dad's shirt. Scariest moment of my life. And yes, I had taken a hunter's safety course and been trained but I was young, dumb and careless. Choking on something while alone. Hang out with a stranger from the internet lol. I didn't use any sort of protection with my ex-boyfriend for about 10 months, so stupid, no pregnancy. But I would hate to have had an accidental child with this man and be tied to him for the rest of my life.